Hello everyone, I'm that dude over there, and like I said, today we're going to cover the mysteries behind our new Velma. Last time I tackled this, I talked about how I would remake Velma conceptually. We talked about how I would remake the characters, and go on about the plot generally speaking. I would recommend you check that video out first so you get some idea on how much I really changed. However, I also recognize that not everyone has the time for that, so let me summarize my points here. Turn down the politics, turn Velma's mom into the One Piece, and make the killer seasonal. When making the characters, have Shaggy become Makoto Naegi, have Daphne become Kokichi Oma, have Fred become Waishni, and have Velma become some weird version of L. Oh, and have Scooby exist. But despite these changes, we never tackled the mystery behind the plot. We never talked about how I changed Velma's mom, or the killer who's removing brains, so today I'll remedy that by explaining how I tackle Velma's mother's disappearance. The killer who has been removing brains, and, as a bonus, the pentagram that shows up at the end of Season 1 of Mindy's Velma. Let's discuss the main mystery first. Some advice I learned early on when making mystery-like scenarios is that you need to work backwards. If we're able to know the answer of the main mystery, we can better plant clues that connect the other seasons back to the main one. So the question we ask here is, what happened to Velma's mom? Honestly, this is a tough question. In the show, we don't learn enough about Daya to get a grip on who she is as a character. Believe me, I tried researching the character, but got nothing about who she is outside of her appearance. And I would rather eat my own shoe than watch the show again to get more insight. From what I can remember of Daya, she was involved in the resurrection of the research of Dr. Edna Perdue to swap the brains of humans. But ask me anything else about the character and I begin to draw blanks. She truly feels like a MacGuffin, in the sense that she only exists as a motive for Velma to get her hands on. It doesn't matter who she was, Velma just needed to have a complete family. Her involvement in the seasonal mystery is also bare bones, since she was just an innocent bystander who was forced to cooperate in the villain's schemes. It falls into the same camp of Melissa, but worse, since Melissa needed to at least be nice. Literally, okay, I mean anyone could be swapped with Daya, and the plot can play the same way. Just to prove my point though, let's go down this thought train to see how much actually changes. So for this thought experiment, let's replace Daya with Steve, alright? Say hi to Steve, everybody. So, the teenage girl still appears and Velma is forced to investigate to clear herself of suspicion. The show plays more or less the same until the second body shows up. Velma is forced back into the case because of the second body at her house showing up, and Fred having an alibi for that murder. Velma now has to prove that this murder wasn't hers either. Third episode plays out the same, with Velma's mom getting replaced with the killer. Fourth episode plays the same, fifth episode plays the same. Sixth episode changes from Velma having daddy issues to Velma having family problems. This could be like the fact that Velma's mom is in a loveless marriage or something, like she brings up in the last episode. The Jinkies that is found belongs to our friend Steve instead of Daya. Hi Steve, how you doing? Good. Good. Seventh episode plays the same. Eighth episode plays the same till the end, where Velma is saved by Steve instead of Daya. Steve gets accused of many things while in the hospital. For example, being a predator, being a sexist, being a creep, anything. But Velma has to keep Steve happy in order to find the real killer. The episode then instead has Velma complain that she has to play into the patriarchy's rules or some shit to help Steve remember who the killer is. Velma builds a profile of Steve, the wholesome whippy guy that he is. We love you, Steve! This is done so that when Steve says that he's the killer, Velma is just as skeptical than when Daya does it, alright? But besides this, everything else kind of plays the same until the end of episode 10, where Steve is probably forgotten about. Bye, Steve! See you later, buddy! But you see what I mean? So, how do we fix Daya to make her more memorable and important to our Velma, not the other one? So, like I brought up back in the first video, some actual exchanges about Velma's mother as a person would be fantastic. But to do that, we need to know the kind of person she is. So my proposal would be, make Velma's mother similar to Izumi Curtis from Fullmetal Alchemist. A prideful woman who excels in their field of study, but has a tender heart and cares for the youth of the modern generation. Why Izumi out of all the possible female characters to choose from? I don't know, it's just the first character I thought of that felt like they'd fit the bill. Using the backstory we built up before with Velma, I think that someone who doesn't take shit when it's presented to them, while also being a strong, smart, supportive role model, would be the ideal mother for our previously prideful protagonist. Thus, the breakup for when Velma's mom goes missing isn't because of some silly argument, it comes from two prideful people who believe they know best. But here's the big question. How does a person like this go missing? How do they suddenly disappear or die so suddenly? Well, this is where the full mystery gets revealed. Alright? Daya's field of study lies with the mind. She's a well-respected member of her study and was recently given the opportunity to fund a research of her own design. Daya wanted to study how the brain evolved over time, to find a way to naturally speed up the course of evolution of the wildlife humans interact with every day, finding a way to bring us closer to understanding all life on Earth. And while she had planned for this to be akin more to like Zootopia or The Jungle Book, you know, something where the animals could talk with us for understanding's sake, others saw it differently. Some saw this as a research to further the espionage scene. No longer would you need to send a human life to spy on our enemies. No one would suspect that a dog or that lonely ass pigeon that they came across was working with the government to spy on others. As the research continued, these ideals would clash against each other until one fateful night, a private investigator would overhear the argument between Daya and a government official over the purpose of this research. Our investigator leaks this misconstrued story to the press about government drones being concealed as household pets. The higher-ups forced Daya to stop her research. This becoming public has created so much fear and suspicion that if they were to continue, it wouldn't be in good faith. But our government official from before has other plans. They realize how much work has gone into the project, too much to be thrown away to the wayside. They plan a kidnapping of Daya to force her to continue her research against their will. But someone as influential as Daya can't just be hidden away without notice. People would become suspicious over the sudden disappearance of a scientist whose study recently got cancelled. What our official needed was a cover-up story to get Daya away. And their answer? Simple. A staged death. With all the stress from her work, it wouldn't be surprising if an accident occurred while cleaning up. This was their window to get rid of Daya from the limelight and continue the research in secret. Psst! This is the truth that I mentioned in Velma's character section in the original video. Learning about the accident destroys Velma's confidence and fills her with regret and guilt. But why change it to this? Why go out of the way to change what Velma had done with Daya in favor for all of this? Well, remember how I said that it doesn't matter how we make the characters, so long as they end up as the characters they're supposed to be by the end? In our final episodes of our Velma, our mystery gang would storm the facility to rescue Daya and expose the truth to the public. During the struggle, the official I mentioned before would get into a fight with one of the mystery gang. Scooby would jump in to protect them, and the official would kick Scooby into something that had some of Velma's mom's research. After this, the mystery gang escape with Daya, reveal the truth, and get a happy ending. Except, Shaggy would be worried for Scooby. As they were leaving, Scooby was the only one that wasn't with them. So as our gang look around, they struggle to find their canine companion. But suddenly, a strange voice rings through the air. Shaggy looks around, and Scooby leaps into his owner's arms, glad that they're alive. The research that Scooby had been kicked into developed him enough to speak with his peers. Our series does end, however, when the dog talks. With this mystery, we can create mysteries that connect back to this one. Let's take the brain murder mystery, for example. In the original, we get Project Scooby, led by Dr. Purdue and Fred's mom being the culprit. I'd give a spoiler warning, except nobody cares about this show. In fact, if the wiki wasn't so bare bones, I'd give more of an explanation. So, my change is simple, and let me explain. During Dia's research project, before it goes public, one of her coworkers gets removed from the project. They're removed because their methods of research were more creepy and just overall just freaking the other workers out. Our coworker doesn't take this well, and leaves to pursue the answer to their research in private. The problem is that without the government's funding, our researcher has no way of studying the mind. But then, he develops a plan. They apply to work as a college counselor in their hometown of Crystal Cove. With access to near-developed minds of the public, they'll be able to analyze them in secret, under the guise of a counselor. But this wasn't enough for our guy. Every second they wasted not studying was another second that the government was getting closer to their solution. They needed to prove that they were the reason why the research had developed so well. They needed to make their superiors see that they were wrong to remove them from the project. This line of thinking led them to perform an unspeakable act. They began to kidnap students. They rationalized that the research was supposed to bring human intelligence into animals. If they were able to switch the minds of human beings, then what's stopping them from finding a way to switch the minds of a human and a wild animal? If they were able to do this, then they can achieve what Dia could not. And if they could surpass the woman leading the project, then they could prove that removing them from the project was the greatest mistake that the superiors would make. Our guy is careful when abducting people for his experiments. They make sure to erase camera footage that would incriminate them for their crimes, targeting students randomly and sporadically to avoid detection. And one night, the night before our series begins, they find a new way of securing the brains of victims without damaging the products. This recent victim, however, is left behind in a classroom. Velma, now a college student, arrives in for class. I'm sorry if I spoke very vaguely or awkwardly in these parts. Listen, I really don't care who or what the killer is, so long as these are the general guidelines. And before we talk about a second season antagonist, why not leave a comment on how you'd make the villain for season 1 or 2? I'm just some guy online explaining a possible scenario, and hearing others expands what we believe is possible for a story like this. Alright, I'll leave a comment if I'm annoying and confusing, and I'm just an asshole doing some shit. I don't know. But, getting on track, we know absolutely nothing regarding the antagonists of Season 2. And I guarantee you, few people are actually going to be interested in a second season of what is generally considered the worst animated show on HBO. But, enough of that thinking. What do we actually know about the threat in Season 2? Well, we know that they have connections with Daphne, as they leave the initial mystery at her doorsteps. This could mean that they know who Daphne is, or they have associations with her mothers who work in the police. Next, we know that the letter has a pentagram on the back, drawn in what is presumably blood. This means whoever sent it has ties to someone or something that is associated with religion or religious intent. Based on how the star is drawn, it leaves a connection to Satanism, which is the upside down star. With these details in mind, I think that the killer for next season is some kind of cult killer with connections to the police. Oh god, why does this remind me of Death Note? Ugh. In any case, how can we apply this to our Velma? Here's what I think. Our antagonist is the cult leader of an organization known as the Fallen Wings. They worship a deity that is symbolized by a crow in the formation of an upside-down pentagram. They spread messages of positivity and healthy lifestyle choices, but secretly they are planning to gather enough members to sacrifice themselves for their lord. If they do that, they will be reincarnated in their deity's image, and strife and agony will be eradicated. They target individuals who have been outcasted or cancelled in the modern day. Once they've joined, they begin aiding the person, bringing them back to their former selves, so to speak. And once they've done that, they send them out to recruit others. Our gang would get involved when Daphne and Shaggy become members, and it's up to Velma, Fred, and Scooby to save them and expose the truth behind the cult. That sounds like a mighty fine idea to me, but how do we wrap this back to the main mystery? See, throughout our time with this organization, we never really see their leader. Even when Velma is given the choice to speak to them, they are forced to meet in a confession-style box where the leader is speaking to her indirectly. This is because the truth in the matter is, the person that they believe is speaking is not a person at all. Velma goes to the other door to see who is orchestrating all of this and finds nobody, but as she leaves, a black bird flies out of the confessional box. This black bird is an experiment created by Dai's research that was deemed a failure. It never spoke in the presence of researchers, which led them to believe that their experiment had failed. But once the bird left, it began enticing humans of a promise of a better tomorrow. The bird wanted revenge for the horrific experiments that were performed on it, for the treatment that it had been under. And what better way of vengeance than with humanity scrubbed off of the earth? Our mystery gang wouldn't solve this mystery by exposing the bird, but would expose it for its plans of mass unaliving, and their leader being someone who never actually existed. And sure, I just wanted this leader to be kind of a offhand reference to Mystery Incorporated. I don't know the bird's name or anything, I just know that it's a good show, generally speaking, and, a little reference to that wouldn't be half bad. It's my belief that these mysteries are better than Dr. Purdue and her plan to undo science's big discovery because Fred's father is a dick. I mean, why do we have to wait 6 episodes for the mystery to begin? That only gives us 4 episodes to try and put it all together. It's dumb, and while my ideas are rough drafts, or not completely thought out, they offer a better take than what Velma decided to do, or will do, if Season 1 is any example. But on another note, I thank you for watching these videos. It takes a lot of work and sacrifice to make these, and if it weren't for the fact that all content creators are masochists, I would have probably given up 15 videos ago. Leave a comment for other series I should look into, whether they be big or small, or popular or not. But until next time, stay safe out there.